This blog I like to call the State of the Hobby today. A lot of people call us and ask, do you think autographs are still a good investment? First of all, the beauty of autographs is a lot of people believe, historically speaking, autograph collecting is the oldest hobby, not only in the United States but in the world. The famed Alexandria Library, 300 years BC, was said to have a large autograph collection. So if that's the case, I'd say we're in pretty good footing as far as investment. But certainly a lot of things have changed. Not only the economy in our country and around the world has affected our hobby greatly, two influences that were meant to help our hobby, the first of which I'm going to discuss on this blog, actually have done it a lot of harm. The first one was eBay. eBay came on the scene in 1998. Now our company, Piece of the Past, like so many other companies, joined eBay in its first months. In fact, we spent over a decade on eBay. eBay in the beginning was a boom for collectors. It was great for prices too. In those first few years, it was the wild, wild west. Prices were strong and it was bringing new collectors into our field, and that's always a good thing. If that's where eBay's sole purpose lie, we'd be in good shape. But unfortunately, it also became a purveyor of the largest amount of forgeries in the field today. It's still that way today. A lot of the auctions that existed and a lot of the collectors prior to eBay would buy from auctions or buy from printed lists and catalogs that people would mail them. We did catalogs for decades. And that's how the hobby went. And during that time, you got a certificate of authenticity from the dealer you dealt with that you felt a certain level of trust with, and that's how you built your collection. When eBay came along, though, a couple of things bad happened. One, it was a level playing field for rare items. Items that we believed that were rare no longer were rare. Suddenly they would show up dozens at a time, perhaps. So something that was thought to be rare was merely uncommon, and that affected the price. Like in any auction, and eBay is an auction site, every time an item sells, and they have a record where you can research the last time it sold, it's what we call diminishing returns. The item would bring less and less at auction, unless there was something extraordinary about the content of it. And perhaps eBay is still not a bad place for that, although like any auction house you have a lot of fees associated with it. Where eBay has harmed the hobby is in the proliferation of forgeries. And there have been millions and millions, perhaps $1 billion or more in forgeries. The FBI once estimated that 85% of the autograph material on eBay was bad. That was the FBI's Operation Bullpen report that was done a few years ago. Well, worse still, those forgeries and the sellers who had no experience in the field, had never issued a catalog, had never done anything before in the field, people didn't even know who they were, could now join up for free and sell their items on eBay. You would think that the public would find a way to educate themselves, that's what collectors should do, and pick and choose among the bad items on eBay. And perhaps some of the collectors today try to do just that. But remember, you're looking at a scan on eBay. You're not looking at the actual item. And a lot of times they have these long convoluted stories, proof pictures that are no proof at all. We're going to get to that in later blogs. It confuses the collector. A lot of times collectors quit collecting because of the confusion, or worse still, because they've enjoyed an item for a while on their walls only to find out later it was a forgery. So in these and many other cases, eBay has harmed the hobby. eBay themselves brought about a couple of changes that, believe it or not, made matters worse. One they call the Vero program. And this is a program that, again, was meant to help them stay out of hot water is all. It was really a selfish program instituted to try to keep their level of lawsuits down. They had been sued by Tiffany's and several other companies for selling bad items in those fields, forged items, if you will. So in an effort to try to stave those off and to show some sense of disciplinary action on their part, they created the Vero program. Here's how it was supposed to work. Someone who had the rights to copyright, like, say, Tiffany Company, could register with that program. Therefore, they could use their own people to police the sites. When they knew a piece was bad, Rolex knew a watch was bad, Tiffany knew a piece was bad, they could have that item removed from eBay. Certainly better than constantly suing eBay. They thought it was a win-win. But where the Vero program got into our field of autographs, it got a lot more convoluted. They didn't require the people joining to really prove that they had an ability or a right to be in that Vero program. Let me give you an example. I have a company called Starwares that for over 28 years has sold props and costumes, also directly obtained from stars, hence the name, and from the studios. And this company was originally Marsha and John Tyson's company for over 20 years, and I've had it now for about 8. It's a fantastic company, and it has a lot of relationships, Barbra Streisand and other stars, and including Cher. Now, Cher sold her personal items directly given to us by Cher with her own letters and so forth for years for Starwares. So we knew Cher pretty well. When my main company, Piece of the Past, had put up a contract signed by her, it was actually a contract to buy a Jeep Cherokee Jeep on eBay, contracts being fantastic because you can be a little more sure of their authenticity. It was pulled down by this Vero program for eBay. When we asked Cher why did her people pull it down, because naively we assumed that's who had registered under Cher, she looked into it for us and she found out that no, in fact, it was a person, a company, who had the rights to only the vintage Sonny and Cher show on DVD. What their motivation was in pulling other Cher listings down, we'll never know. But the point is they didn't have the right to do it. eBay didn't have a right to end the listing, but they did. That would also be all well and good if that's as far as it went. And that's probably as far as the Vero program should go, pull down the listing, right? But no, if you have 2 or 3 of these strikes, as they call it, your entire listings, regardless of what you're selling, can be pulled down permanently on eBay. Now that was just one case with us. Another case was we had an authentic Johnny Cash signature that I myself had witnessed. They got pulled down in the Vero program. Again, this time we found out from the Johnny Cash estate, not from them, but from a man who had published a coffee table book about the life and times of Johnny Cash. A book that didn't even have or mention his signature throughout the book. Certainly this man was no expert in the field. In fact, the family told us they weren't really happy with the man's portrayal of Johnny in the book in the first place. So that was another strike for us. On and on this went until we ran into a photographer named Barry, a lot of the dealers in this field are familiar with because they've paid extortive rates to their insurance companies and others when they've been sued by this man. This man successfully sued eBay, and not only that, he sued Yahoo and Google and all kinds of GoDaddy portal companies, IS providers. Unbelievable, this man. 37 cases that we can document have never gone to trial. Every single one, his assertion was that we, or people like us, were selling his copyrighted material. But he was a photographer. And I don't know about other firms, but I know we never sold unsigned material. We would get the signed material at the charity or directly from the celebrity. The celebrity themselves would make the material. This man's smart. He won't sue the celebrities. He goes after the autograph dealers. So this is a case that we felt was so important to the field, and so many of our friends in the field had been damaged by this person, had been pulled off of eBay, good authentic dealers pulled off of eBay, that we came off of eBay ourselves in order to fight this fight in court. It's a fight that has taken us, as of this blog, over a year and a half. We hope this June to settle it with a jury of our peers. But this one photographer didn't recognize the right of sale of the items that were signed by these celebrities. He was able to pull these down when we don't even believe he owned the copyrights to them. So this is another example of the abuses of eBay. Abuses not only with that, but as their sales started to slip. It was well known that they felt like one thing that separated them was you had to pay shipping costs. So they instituted a 5-star system that started to hurt dealers too, that wanted to offer things like we did at no reserve, below our costs starting at auctions. But we were, again, penalized by eBay because we didn't want to have free shipping. This was ridiculous when you consider myself, for example, was tapped to write not only online tutorials about autograph collecting for eBay that are still online there, but also the eBay magazine, now defunct, the printed magazine that they put out years ago. I wrote the first autograph story for the first magazine for them, free of compensation. Not only that, but they had a fraud department headed up by a man named John that a lot of us knew in the industry. He was a good man. He cared about our field, even though he wasn't an autograph dealer or a collector. And he cared about the forgeries in our field. I, as well as many other people around the country, were selected as the people that would advise him about the forgeries on eBay. A daunting task. It's literally like having a tin cup to try to bail water on the Titanic, because millions of listings are listed every single day. Even a team of people couldn't police it properly as it should have been. But we were able to make a dent in it. In fact, we set up sting operations and so forth. For over 4 years and for free of charge, I helped the fraud department at eBay, only to have eBay turn their back on us in this lawsuit with this photographer. That's how scared they were of getting sued. They're probably going to get sued, but it probably won't be by the photographer. So eBay has really hurt the hobby, because in these practices that are financial or litigious in nature, the Vero program, and then the proliferation of frauds, on top of all of that, eBay, not too long ago, dismissed this man, John, and that fraud department. Now it's in the hands of very few inexperienced people to pull down anything, and almost nothing is pulled down anymore. The proliferation of forgeries is worse than it's ever been in the history of eBay. There was talk before this man left his post that eBay wanted to do away with the category of autographs altogether. I, for one, wish they would. I wish it would go back to where you had to find a dealer of experience and that was the person that you had to trust and deal with. Back to the days not only of only a dozen years ago, but for the last several thousand years, apparently, that people have collected autographs. It's so sad to me to see major dealers in this field, dealers you can trust, that were removed from eBay. Not for bad pieces, or maybe for allegedly having bad pieces, but they were not guilty of that. Todd Mueller and Christoph Stickel. Autograph World, Iconographs, so many companies. Others just gave up and decided it wasn't worth it. Because how do you sell an item for $100 that's worth that when they could buy a forgery for 10 or 20? So the field wasn't level anymore. eBay wasn't productive anymore the way it used to be for our field. And so now you've got the forgers on there and very few people selling real autographs. There are some, but not many. You're more likely to be caught in the clutches of the forgers if you deal with eBay today. All of this created a perfect storm for the appearance of the second largest body, let's say, that came into our field very recently, less than since 1998, and that has harmed it as much or more. On the next blog, we'll be talking about that. In the meantime, I'm Kevin Martin. This is Piece of the Past. See ya!